Hi, I'm Dave Dinkle with your 2-minute tip. I got a call from a student about a week and a half ago, panicked. He said, "Man, I've really done it now." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He had a property under contract and he had it sold, wholesale deal, same day closing, $56,000 net profit after costs, no rehab, no anything. So I said, "Well, what's the issue?" He said, "Well, I'm supposed to close following Monday." I had set up transactional funding for him. This was on the previous Friday. He said, "I got into a terrible situation." And what he had decided to do, because he knew he was going to close, he said to the seller, supposedly, and I believe that he was telling the truth, "Do you mind if I clean out the property?" They had already had it sold, but I guess the end buyer probably said to him, "I don't want the property. It's a hoarder's dream. I'd like all that stuff out." So he decided instead of trying to do it in one weekend, he would take a few days to do it. It was that much stuff. So on Tuesday, he sent a worker out there with a dumpster. Worker diligently filled it, probably filled at least another dumpster. But Friday morning, the seller of the property that lived elsewhere in the neighborhood came by and saw this person in his house taking out the contents. Now, to a hoarder, the contents of the house are antiques, valuable stuff, even if they are junk. So what happened is the owner jumped out, ran up to the guy, started screaming at him. The guy didn't understand English. So they got to a point where they actually pushed each other. Now the homeowner has a carry permit, and he pulls out a gun, and he goes to shoot the guy. A neighbor starts screaming and comes over and interprets what the guy that's cleaning out the house is all about. So the seller calls my student investor and he says, "Hey, all of these things that have taken out, I want my money for them, and I'm not going to close with you," and on and on and on. In the interim, he called the police. So my student gets to the house and he's calling me and saying, "What do I do now?" Because the guy is saying that, I've burglarized the house. And I said to him, he's right. The student said, "Well, I had a contract." I said, "You have an equitable interest in the property to sell it. You don't have an equitable interest to remove assets from the grounds." So what happened is the police came, and luckily the policeman knew the student, not in a bad way, but he had lived in the neighborhood for a while. And he said, "This is not a burglary. What this is a domestic dispute. You guys work it out." The net effect is, though, that the seller didn't sell to the student. As a $56,000 lost profit. So what's the moral to the story? Don't take it upon yourself to clean out houses before you've closed on them and actually own them. Ironically, 2 days ago, I get a call from an investor on the West Coast, and he says to me in a very shadowed voice, "I really have a big problem." I said, "Gee, what's that about?" Because both of these guys are pretty professional investors. The second one I'm going to talk about is been in the business for a number of years. So he proceeds to tell me the story, and the story is that he has a woman that sold him a property, and I don't remember the numbers on the contract and stuff, it doesn't matter. But he's got it under contract. He goes to the house, it's been vacant, she lives out of state, and he wants to show his end buyer $40-some thousand profit in hand. The guy says, "I'll buy it, I just want to look inside." Show him the property. So he goes ahead and breaks into the house, twist the lock off. I don't know if he drilled it out or exactly what he did. He put his own lock on it. Well, while he's doing all that, or attempting to do it, the police roll up and they arrest him. And, well, they didn't arrest him, but they came to the point of pretty much putting him in handcuffs and saying, "Explain what you're doing here." Now, with the first student that I talked about, he had his purchase and sale agreement. He had a HUD closing statement set up for Monday. So it was very easy for him to say to the policeman, "Look, here, I'm buying the property, I'm closing on Monday, I was just cleaning it out." That's not a cause to let it go. If the policeman had wanted to do it, he could have arrested him. So in the second case, the policeman says, "How do I know that?" And he said, "Well, I'm buying the house." "Well, show me." He didn't have a signed contract. He assumed that the woman was going to sign the contract, and she hadn't. And of course what happened is, the reason the police came is the neighbors called. And they said, "Somebody's breaking into the house." They're absolutely right. So the point of this story is, even if you have a contract for closing on a certain date, so you have equitable interest, does not allow you to burglarize the property. Now, interestingly enough, I always tell my mentor students, look, follow-up is where the money is. Keep following up until the seller gets a restraining order. The restraining order, it does not cover burglarizing the house until you get it. So be careful out there. Common sense is not so common, but you can, I know some of you are listening to this and saying, well, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I would never do that. But in the heat of battle, when you're looking at $40,000 or $50,000 profits on homes that are that price, literally 100% profits, you can get a little bit excited. So keep it under control. I didn't stay in 2 minutes, but I probably never will. Thanks very much for watching today.